Hopefully the turkey tasted better today than the football did last Saturday in Lincoln for you Husker fans. We talk Nebraska football here each and every Thursday night at 6 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock in Lincoln. Hopefully you've had a happy Thanksgiving and the food has gone down well. Maybe you're in store for some seconds and thirds, and join us and we'll try to keep you awake and not let the turkey sink in too much. We got Greg Peterson, of course, on the line from Husker Online on Rivals. And also this week, we've got Zach Reeder from Fifth Quarter College Football. We cut a segment a few days ago. Fifth Quarter College Football, Zach Reeder. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing good. How about you guys?
Doing well, doing well. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Want to remind everyone that Nebraska Live is brought to you by the fine folks at Tolley Brothers. They are the Husker fans at Phone Genie. Go to TolleyBrothersLLC.com. You see the link right there, TolleyBrothersLLC.com. Tolley Brothers offers products for home and workspace for serious germ mitigation efforts. I think you know what that means and can pertain to during this season and during what we've experienced over the last 7 or 8 months. So serious germ mitigation efforts there at TolleyBrothersLLC.com, and they make this show possible. All right. Well, following the effort the week before against Penn State in a pretty fine defensive effort from start to finish for the most part, and maybe a spotty offensive performance, but certainly some good signs, Nebraska is a 16-point favorite, Greg, and you were there to take it all in, the good and the bad and the mostly the bad. 41-23 loss to Illinois. They got down early at 28-10, never were able to catch up.
No, they weren't. Yeah, I completely forgot about that game now, didn't I? No.
I hope not. Well, it might be better for you if you did, but not for the show necessarily.
Yeah, really. No, it was, in my opinion, I think that was the worst offensive effort from a Scott Frost coach team here at Nebraska. They're taking on a team that they, 2 years in a row had torched for 600 yards of offense. So, yeah, it just wasn't good that, they turned the ball over right away and got themselves in a hole and had to rely on the defense and, defense on the field way, way, way too much. And, just too much for them to ask. And, just a completely ugly game all the way around for Nebraska and, a real momentum killer going into having to take on the Hawkeyes tomorrow. So it wasn't fun to be at, and I'm sure it wasn't fun to watch on TV either.
Zach, your thoughts about the loss to the Illini as the Huskers fall to 1-3?
Yeah, I think Greg was right on. I mean, the defense was on the field way too much in that game. I thought the defense in that game was spotty. I thought Illinois kind of pick and chose. It seemed like what they wanted to run, and they're running it successfully. But you saw guys step up for the Nebraska defense. Also, guys like Will Honus and Ben Stille stepped up and made pretty good plays in that game and gave, it seemed like, the offense maybe a chance to get back into it. But then you got plays like that fake punt, which seemed like that play lasted for about 45 seconds. And that kind of just, after that play, it kind of seemed like the game was just dead.
So again, 41-23 loss to Illinois. The Illini had lost their first 3 games, then got off the mat against Rutgers with the last-second game-winning field goal. Before we move on to more analysis from the Illinois game and looking forward to, it's, of course, Black Friday, and it's another game against the Hawkeyes, has become tradition here in the Big Ten. Greg, we do have a question coming in from Adonbe, who, it's a pretty broad question, but I guess he's wanting to know Nebraska's recruiting base in terms of geography, what he's looking for there, I think.
Yeah, we've talked about that several times before. Nebraska likes to use their 500-mile radius to draw most of their recruiting from outside of the big hotspot areas of the country. You're always going to be recruiting Florida very hard, Georgia, Louisiana. You're always going to try to get into Texas, which has been a lot harder for Nebraska to do these days. And you're always trying to get a little bit from out west. You try to still still have a little bit of presence out there, even if you aren't successful year in and year out. But the bulk of your recruiting guys are going to come from the states surrounding Nebraska. We've mentioned Nebraska has three commits from the state of Iowa this year, 3 high caliber commits, the number 1 player in the state and the number 3 player in the state. Nebraska recruits the state of Missouri very hard, the state of Kansas very hard, the state of Colorado very hard, the state of South Dakota very hard. Nebraska is very successful with getting the top players from South Dakota. Nebraska is always in Minnesota. They try to get a little bit out of Wisconsin, and you're always going to try to get after those Illinois kids, the Chicago area kids. So, you're looking at, that's pretty much it, and you try to get whatever you can outside of that. And, every now and then you score a home run. You see like a guy like Wandale Robinson that you pluck out of the state of Kentucky. So, Scott Frost and his coaching staff they have a lot of ties down south, and they're very successful in getting a lot of those high caliber SEC guys to come down here and play in the cold.
Zach, any thoughts about the recruiting base?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to recruiting, I think that they've definitely taken a step in the right direction. But the second part of recruiting is obviously getting that product out there and it being successful to show the recruits, exactly what they have in store at the University of Nebraska. And I think, you've seen some flashes, but you're seeing a lot of things that really aren't good signs for the Huskers, at least here in year 3 early on. You're seeing a lot of those guys not develop like some of the staff, like some of the media would have liked to see, and like what the team would have wanted to see. So I think, it's a bit concerning at this point, what you've seen, but I do think, they've had a pretty strict plan as far as recruiting. Guys like Will Honus out of Butler Community College in Kansas, guys like Thomas Fadone out of Iowa, exactly what Greg was talking about. They've stuck to those states around. They've found enough talent. Now it's just about helping that talent take the next step and, becoming a better program overall on the field.
Before we get to more personnel breakdowns and a look at Illinois, starting with Luke McCaffrey, of course, Greg, I wanted to hit you up on this one because we had talked about this for a couple of weeks. You're typically on the sideline for the ball games, right?
Yep.
With the COVID restrictions and the social distancing and so forth, they've moved you up into the stands, correct?
Correct.
How has that been?
It's actually pleasant. You can sit down if you have to. That's different. You don't have to. You're not shoulder to shoulder with a whole bunch of other people on the sidelines that have no business being down there. But and you can hear everything except if you're right by the speakers in the north end zone where they're piping the crowd noise into. That's not real pleasant there. But no, I mean you can see everything, and it's pretty streamlined for getting in and out. You go through the concourse, and you can be in either the north end zone or the south end zone or the West Stadium. The only place you can't be in the West Stadium is where the families are sitting. So, yeah, I mean, you can move around and get some decent shots and everything. And yeah, it's not bad. It's just a little lonely out there. And besides, you look at the cardboard cutouts of people all the time, and that's about all the company you get.
Hi, Cheryl. Good to see you here in the live chat as always. Cheryl, our moderator at the top of the list. She is just here just about all the time and moderating the live chat. George, good to see you as well. Trevor, again, everybody in the live chat, please leave your comments, your questions, your debate topics for us. So, Greg, looking at Luke McCaffrey's performance, 15 of 26 for $134, 3 interceptions. Obviously, his undoing there and pretty much not being able to get the ball downfield, but part of the position is generating offense, so we certainly have to balance that out with what he was able to accomplish on the ground, which is pretty impressive. 2 touchdowns and $122 on the ground.
That's debatable. Touchdowns were real short, little 1 yard. But he just he wasn't finding guys downfield. He wasn't finding open receivers, and just hesitant to take any kind of shots downfield. And, a lot of those yards came on scramble yards after a play had broken down. And so, it was kind of helter-skelter most of the time out of them. And, the big question is, did they pull the plug on Adrian Martinez too early? And if you remember, I was the only one that was calling for Martinez to start against Northwestern or following the Northwestern game. I'm sorry. So if you're going to ask me, I think they're going to be going back to Adrian Martinez. That's kind of the way all signs are pointing right now. So, it's some growing pains for Luke. And, you have to remember that he had only played 1 year at quarterback position in high school. And, he started 2 whole games in college. So it's going to be the growing pains. But, you just can't afford those turnovers right now. That's what's killing you. And, you can't do that against the Iowa Hawkeyes come tomorrow, because you look up and you'll be down by 40 points. And so, overall, Luke, he runs the ball well when he has to. And, when they have designed runs for him, they do pretty good. But most of the time, they're getting stuck in third and longs with Luke out there. And, they're just not getting the job done on second and mediums. And so then you got a freshman quarterback out there trying to make up. So, yeah.
Zach, what did you see out of Luke McCaffrey?
Greg hit it right on. I think the two concerning things were him not being able to throw the ball downfield. You saw no shots taken downfield, really. And then you saw him kind of frantic in the pocket, even with a 4-man rush. He kind of seemed a little bit, I don't know if it was nerves or what it was, but he just seemed like he had a clock in his head that was going off every 2 seconds about how he needed to take off and run. And it was showing. And, you look ahead to kind of an Iowa team, they love to rush 4. They're a pretty standard defense on the front end. You're not going to see a ton of blitzing from them. You could see it in this game, especially with Nebraska's quarterback play being shaky. But they're going to go typical 4-man, and they're going to have their linebackers, keyed into looking at the quarterback, whoever it is. So, that style of play is not going to work against Iowa. So whoever the quarterback is, you're going to have to see a change. You're going to have to see them sit in the pocket, go through their progressions, take their shots downfield, take the rushing yards when they're there. But you're going to have to show an all-around game to beat a Hawkeye team that's playing a lot better recently.
Well, yeah, and they're, just like everybody's starting to do against Nebraska, they're all starting to creep up, and they're daring Nebraska to pass the ball because they can't do it. And, Iowa's going to do that same thing, and you're going to have to throw the ball to beat Iowa tomorrow.
Absolutely.
For the last 2 years, Nebraska's taken Iowa as a pretty heavy underdog down to the wire in a last-second field goal loss to the Hawkeyes the last 2 years against the Hawkeye team last year that went 10-3 and won the Holiday Bowl, finished in the top 15 in the nation. And I certainly thought that the effort by Nebraska the year before, after they had gotten off to the 0-6 start under Scott Frost in his first year, and then played Ohio State within a score in Columbus, and then a good Iowa team down to the wire last play of the game again, really was going to be the catapult to a good, solid 2019 season. But that wasn't necessarily the case. But it's the Hawkeyes and the Huskers once again. Got a question coming in from Trevor Emmerich. Greg, this concerns recruiting as well. Feels like Nebraska's recruiting has been hurt by joining the Big Ten.
It's changed it. I mean, obviously it's changed it. It's in the biggest area that it's hurt is recruiting the state of Texas, because you used to be able to guarantee that those Texas kids would be able to come down and play in front of their family and friends a couple of times a year at least. Now you don't have that. You don't have that presence in there anymore, and it's hurting the recruiting out west as well. Like I said, Nebraska, they pluck a guy here and there out of California or Arizona. But, it's regionally changed. Nebraska's recruiting more towards the East Coast. And you hear people talk a lot about, Nebraska needs to get back into Jersey like they used to and stuff. They try. They try to get into everywhere. When you're in the middle of the country, you've got to recruit the entire country. And, they're trying to get what they they're trying to get everybody here. And, we just said a little bit ago, once you do get those kids on campus here, you've got a 90% chance of convincing them to be here because they fall in love with the place. I know, Mark, you've heard me say it before that, every time that I meet a out-of-state recruit, they're always amazed by what they saw in Lincoln. They all expected to see cornfields, and it's a real city. It's an actual city, and guys actually enjoy living here once they become a part of the culture and everything, and they realize what a special place Nebraska really is. So yeah, I mean, if you got a high profile 4-star or 5-star type kid and he's signed up for an official visit to come to Lincoln, you hope and pray that he makes that official visit and he comes, and I guarantee you that's going to put Nebraska up there in his top 5, if not even higher on his list.
Any thoughts on that one, Zach, concerning the Big Ten and its effect on Nebraska recruiting?
Yeah, it's definitely changed the dynamic regionally about where you can recruit, where you can promise those recruits, hey, your family just has to drive right down the road from, like, say, a Chicago. So, it helps in some areas, but then obviously, the whole Texas thing, doesn't take it necessarily out of the running, but it really does hurt the fact there. So I just think it's changed it. And I think Nebraska's staff has adapted pretty well. Yeah. And I think they're still getting their guys. I just, you're just not seeing the improvement from these guys for the most part. And I know some of them are still young, but you're not seeing the improvement. That's really the biggest concern. But I think you're still getting the quality of guys you want to get. Obviously, look at the recruiting class the last couple of years where it's ranked.
Yeah, and this is, you have to remember that Scott Frost and the staff only has 2 full recruiting classes here right now. So, it takes time, and, a lot of people want things done right away. And to be honest, you need to give a coach 5 years to get everything installed and the guys in here that he wants and the depth that you need to compete. So it's not an overnight process. And you're bringing in a lot of talented guys, and the question is the development side exactly. And you see flashes of some, and others you don't, and that is a concern. But all you can do is keep on bringing them in and trying to coach them up. And I know this. I know every single coach on this coaching staff personally, and they're all great dudes. And I would have no problem whatsoever letting my son play for any of them. And, I have the utmost confidence that they are the right guys for the job, and they're going to get things done, and they're going to get things done their way, and it's going to be the right way.
We remind everyone to smash that like button. Also, you certainly, if you love college football and love Nebraska in particular, I'm sure know people on social media, have family and friends, and just people that you, again, hang out with on social media that need to know that we're here every Thursday night at 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Central. Lock it in. Tell people out there, share the videos, let them know that we're here talking Huskers. And we just started a call-in show Monday through Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern time. So I'm just going to hang out right here. When we get done, we'll move it up a little bit, and I'll take your calls on college football. All right, Mr. Rod 48. Greg, we'll start with you. Why doesn't Frost give up the play calling duties to someone in the box, or at least take help from someone in the box?
It's a good question. I wish I knew. And if you asked Coach Frost that, he's not going to tell you. So he's probably the best at hiding any kind of information and dodging any kind of question like that. But I don't know. I think that I think they're still trying to work everything out, to tell you the truth. Maybe he should do that. So we'll see. We'll see.
Anything on that, Zach?
I think sometimes, it's hard. People are stubborn. People want to call the plays. He's been successful at calling plays. So I think sometimes, you just want to give it a little bit of time, like Greg said. But sometimes it helps to get perspective from other people. You see a perfect example is my hometown team here in Kansas City, the Kansas City Chiefs. You've got Andy Reid kind of gave up some of his play calling to get a little bit of perspective from Eric Bieniemy, and you start to see a little bit more of a flow sometimes. So maybe, trying it out a few games, to get a little bit more, another coach can see things that Frost doesn't see. Maybe Frost is keyed in on looking at the quarterbacks and not keyed in on those receivers downfield. And maybe you get an offensive coordinator that is more looking at those receivers, and you start to notice things about looking at, hey, maybe you need to change your first read. So, I think that perspective, it's all about perspective and getting it from as many coaches as you can. I don't think it can hurt at all.
And I think that they're working in that direction because they also have to understand that it's Matt Lubick's first year with the staff, and as well as Coach Frost making Coach Greg Austin the run game coordinator. So I think that Coach Frost is obviously doing that, and he's taking the input from those guys as well as Coach Held and Coach Becton. But Scott Frost is he's a quarterback himself. He was an offensive coordinator himself, so I think he's most comfortable calling the plays himself, and he's had success doing it at Oregon. He's had success doing it at Central Florida. So I think it's just a matter of time before it's successful here, and he gets things going the way he's been saying they're going to go.
Yeah, I would agree. Just basically, as long as we can continue to develop that talent, you got to think it's going to work out because he's shown success as a play caller in the past.
I'd like to remind everyone that we've got other team-specific live streams, Florida State, Miami, and Ohio State. These will only continue or be added to based on individual contributions and also sponsors. So if you own a business that could benefit from sponsoring one of these shows, or you've got an idea, just like the way this one started was somebody said, Mark, we want you to do a Nebraska live stream. And I said, we need a sponsor. They went out and got a sponsor within like 3 days. So it got done. So people are talking to me every day. Somebody's got a suggestion. They want LSU, Clemson, Kansas State, whoever they want. All you need to do is go out there and get a sponsor. So they're going to stay alive one of two ways or a combination of ways, individual contributions from you and sponsorships as well. So that said, we remind you that Nebraska Live is brought to you by the Husker fans at Phone Genie. Go to ToleyBrothersLLC.com. ToleyBrothersLLC.com is right there on the banner. Tolley Brothers offers products for home and workspace for serious germ mitigation efforts. That's ToleyBrothersLLC.com. Check out the products right there. Did anything good come out of this Illinois game before we move on to Iowa, Greg? Anyone that you saw flash, anything good? I know it's tough from an Illinois team that you were supposed to beat by 16 points and lost by 18.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Well, that was so long ago. No, I mean, there was some good things that happened defensively. Unfortunately, Colin Miller's injury kind of takes away from a lot that happened. Luckily, he's going to be okay, and he's making the trip. But, I mean, that's the biggest thing, besides from what happened, was like a lot of the injuries is what kind of sticks more in my head than anything that really stood out play-wise. I don't know, Zach, maybe you can help me out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the guys that I saw, one of them only got 7 snaps, but I just like to see him out there. That was Noah Pulla-Gates.
Yeah.
I like to see some young talent out there and, a little bit more of a, you look at both of the safeties at Nebraska, Markel Dismuke and Deontay Williams, both physical guys in the run game who like to hit hard, but not the best cover guys. And, throwing a guy like Pulla-Gates in there maybe gives Nebraska a little bit better coverage on the back end. So I think that is something to look into. And then the most impressive guy from the day was Will Honus. I thought he stepped up, made a ton of big tackles. I believe he was around 12 or 13 tackles in that game. I don't have an exact number, but he was impressive. I thought he was filling gaps where he needed to be on time as well.
Yeah, I want to agree with you on Noah Pola Gates. I really would like to see some more of him. I covered him last year in the U.S. Army. Well, the All-American Bowl now, or 2 years ago. I'm sorry, as part of that big class that came in, and him and Wandale and Bryce Benhart and those guys that were down there for that game. And he's a good-looking prospect. And Markel Dismuke is a guy that when I saw him, I went out and saw him in Calabasas his senior year in high school. And, he was a 3-star committed to Mike Riley. And I was like, this guy, I don't know if we'll see much of him on the field. And he's really turned into – he's a heck of a hitter. He's a ball hawk, and it's really impressed me. I mean, he's gotten better every single year here, and you got to give him credit. He has waited for his turn. He's stuck around. All of his buddies that came in here with him are all left the program, and he's still here. So, Markel, great guy. But I do want to – somebody did step up, though, that stood out to me from last week, and that was Oliver Martin, the wide receiver, the transfer from Iowa. I think he had 17 snaps, and, those 17 snaps were probably better than any other 17 snaps from any of the wide receivers that were out there all year. So this is a guy that I expect to see a lot more of, and for them to depend on this guy a lot more, and possibly stepping into a starting role coming up here.
Now we're on to the Iowa game. Always on this Friday after Thanksgiving, although I think they veered off of that last year. Was it last year? Anyway, it's typically the last game of the season since the Huskers have joined the Big Ten. The Big Ten, like most of the conferences across the country, big into rivalries and trying to match up those teams on Thanksgiving weekend or whatever turns out to be the last game of the season. So a lot of the rivalries being played on Thanksgiving weekend, which is not necessarily, it's not, hopefully, the last weekend of the season for teams across the country. I know Iowa's won 5 straight. I mentioned the last 2 have been excruciating. Last play of the game, last second field goals. Greg, what do you think of this series? Do you think it means something? That's another issue. Nebraska transplanting from the Big 12. You have to establish new rivalries, and it makes sense for geographically.
Well, yeah, and that's what you've ever since Nebraska joined the Big Ten. It's always been: is it a rivalry or isn't it a rivalry? Who considers it a rivalry? I think for the longest time, Nebraska fans refused to admit that it is a rivalry game. And then in turn, I think Iowa fans just hate Nebraska so much that they don't want to admit that it's a rivalry either. But if you ask the players, hell yeah, they're going to tell you it's a rivalry. It's one of the biggest games of the year as far as they're concerned. You want to win that game because there is bragging rights, and Iowa's won 5 in a row. And the last 2 have definitely left a bad taste in Nebraska's mouth. And, the last 2 years, it looks like Nebraska's been getting closer and closer, and they just can't get over that hump. And, that's one of these big factors here is recruiting. If you want to be successful, you want to go in and grab these top players out of Iowa year in and year out and kind of rub it into the Hawkeyes' faces. That's your goal, and you don't want to lose top guys from the state going over to Iowa, which is also going on this year. You got Keegan Johnson from Bellevue West is a 3-star wide receiver who's committed to Iowa, whose dad is Lester Johnson, who played at Nebraska. So, you want to keep those guys from going to Iowa, and you want to pluck every single guy, just like a Thomas Fidone, out of the state of Iowa. So, yeah, it's a rivalry.
Yeah, and I think, I would agree with you. I'm sure the players think it's a rivalry. You'd like to see Nebraska, kind of make their stake in this and show the Iowa fan base, show those Iowa recruits that, it can be a competitive game. And, it's getting more competitive, but a lot of people, this is the Twitter world talking, but, you say it's not competitive because Nebraska is not winning any of them. So I think they need to go in there and get that win, and that would be something that's huge. And you look at this Iowa team, and it's a little bit inconsistent in the passing game, and kind of been inconsistent as far as their running game too this year. So there's a little bit of inconsistency on offense, which matches up with Nebraska. But the biggest thing is that they're trending in a much better direction than Nebraska, and that's why you see something like a 14-point spread, and why you see a bunch of people all over Iowa in this game, because they're trending better. So Nebraska is going to have to come out, and they're going to have to, I even see the question about it. They're going to have to come out and change up things, in that second medium or third and long, like you said.
Yeah, I think the key, you've seen Nebraska be successful when they come out and they get going on that first drive and they punch it in and they get a score. It's a lot easier for them to play with the lead like that. Now, if they're going to go out and turn the ball over right away like they did against Illinois last week, you're going to fall into a hole against an Iowa team, and you're going to fall right into their hands because they're just going to pound at you the rest of the day with their physicality. They're starting. They got a brand new quarterback in that system who was really shaky the first couple of weeks, and he seems to have been calming down and starting to take control of that offense and doing a lot better. So, you want to get after that guy, and you want to get him rattled, and you want to force them to throw the ball against you. Otherwise, they're just going to run it down your throat all day long, and that's what they're waiting for.
Iowa snuck into the college football playoff rankings, the very first edition, at number 24. Despite the 2 losses to start the season, they're 3-2. They actually took a 17-0 lead against Northwestern before blowing that game 21-20. They lost a tough one to Purdue, who, if you saw last week's game, Purdue and Minnesota, you probably think Purdue, as I do, should be 3-1. There was a phantom pass interference play at the end of that game. Purdue could easily be 3-1. And so Iowa's 2 losses are to 2 pretty decent football teams, one of them ranked in the top 10 in the nation. Then they rattle off 3 consecutive wins. Michigan State, they throttled by 6 touchdowns, and they've won 2 other ball games here the last several weeks. You mentioned Spencer Petras replacing Nathan Stanley, who had been there forever, started since he was a freshman. Petras off to a bit of a rough start. 55%, 3 touchdowns, 4 picks. But again, they really ran the ball well against Penn State, throttled the Nittany Lions last week, 41-21 in Happy Valley. Tyler Goodson's a good back. Also, Mekhi Sargent, both of them had really good efforts. 5.5 and 6.4 yards per carry out of those 2. So the rush defense, as usual, needs to be pretty sturdy against the Hawkeyes, Greg.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to have a lot of guys step up. And now with Colin Miller out, Will Honus is definitely going to be that guy that's going to have to step up and, make sure everybody's making sure tackles and, that defensive line, they're going to have to get physical. Like I mentioned earlier, you want to get after Petras, get him rattled, and get the heck off of the field. If they can't get off of the field, it's going to be a real long day because, Iowa's just going to just shorten that game, and, you're not going to, you get down, you're not going to be able to come back, not in Iowa City.
Yeah, and it's really going to have to come down to, you mentioned the D-line. I think that's going to be the key to the game. You got guys like Ty Robinson, Casey Rogers, Damian Daniels, Ben Stilley, rotating in, and these guys have to be consistent plugs in the run game and make it a one-gap game for those linebackers like Will Honus. And, a guy that I think is kind of underperformed that I'd like to see play better, a guy like Garrett Nelson. He's got to come up and he's got to play a lot better in this game off the end. And really, it's assignment football when it comes to Iowa. It always is. That's how you're going to stay in the game. That's how you're going to beat the Hawkeyes, playing your assignment to the best of your ability and making sure that you plug gaps so that it makes the run game a 1, maybe 2 gap game instead of a 3 or 4. When you're giving the running back so many gaps to go through, that's where you see the linebackers get lost and big runs happen, and that's exactly what you can't afford against Iowa.
Yeah.
Got a question coming in from Harlord, although he may have answered his own question here. Explain the weird play calling, like constant quarterback draws on 3rd and long, jet sweeps to Cade Karner, not wanting to take downfield shots. Do you think this is a lack of trust in the quarterback?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a little bit of everything. The only thing that you had working for you were a lot of those quarterback draws, because you were in a 3rd and 25 and you were having to take what the defense was giving you. And like we mentioned earlier, Luke McCaffrey just didn't see anything developing downfield. There were guys wide open that he just didn't see. They didn't even try. He didn't even try. That's some of the frustrating things about it. So, I think that's why you see a switch back to Adrian Martinez this week. And as long as he can manage that game and take some shots downfield, then they've got a chance. Just it's the turnovers that kill you, and it's like a broken record. We always have to go back to those turnovers. So, it's something that's just going to have to work itself out over time.
Yeah, and you mentioned we don't know who the quarterback is, but if it is Adrian Martinez, you've got to see better footwork and better quarterback mechanics, because I think the thing that's been hurting him this year is he's been inconsistent in accuracy. I think he's taken more shots than McCaffrey. I know it hasn't been a huge sample size for either guy, but he's taken more shots. But the problem is he's had inconsistent footwork and not stepping through his throws, and that's why you've seen a lot sail and go way high. He's throwing a lot of passes late down the middle, which quarterback gurus, any football guy will tell you is not a good idea. You're not going to make a living throwing late down the middle. So whoever the quarterback is, you've got to have consistent footwork. Throws have got to be made on time, and you've got to take shots downfield in order to not have that 8 in the box, which Iowa is very capable of doing if you're not going to take shots downfield.
Which they are going to do. But and that's what's bizarre, is because Adrian, he's not planting his feet. He's not keeping his feet under him. He's not following through. And all things that Coach Verduzco preaches and, swears up and down that you do. So it is strange to see him go from he was pretty solid and pretty sound as a freshman. So it's bizarre. Is it a lack of confidence? I'm not sure, but and like we've been saying, we don't know who is going to start. And Coach Frost says they both had great weeks of practice. You kind of take that with a grain of salt, take that the way you want. But just like whoever is going to play, obviously, they're going to have to play a lot better.
Absolutely.
Is there a unit on this team that's not underachieving? Adrian in the live chat is pointing out to the offensive line. The offensive line's got to play better. And now that I think about it, as I serve it up for both of you, is there a unit that's played up to its standard or expectation?
I pointed out the defensive backfield, I think, has played very well. I think the linebackers as a whole have played very well, and I think the defensive line as a whole has played very well. So, you got to get an effort from everybody. Obviously, the offensive line needs to do better. The wide receivers need to step up. They need to establish a running game besides the quarterback. So, this is a whole team thing. I wouldn't really point it out to one position group or another. Offensive line, it's a question: is Cam Jurgens going to play this week at center, or are you going to see Matt Farniak back in at center? Lately we've seen a lot of those high snaps that really disrupt the whole offense. So there's just so many more questions than there are answers right now going into tomorrow's game.
Yeah, I think the center position is probably the biggest question mark heading into the game. I know a lot of people are worried about the quarterback position, but having consistent snaps, it feels like, you're talking about like grade school football, but like consistent snaps to the quarterback is necessary to keep the rhythm of that offense going. And we haven't been able to see that. But like you mentioned, I think there's been improvements in every area on the defense, and I think we've seen that. I'm interested to see the running back group. I think that they need to show some improvements, and I think it's hard to judge them because you've been seeing consistent 8-man boxes. And with Mills banged up, Wandell has been in and out of the running back spot. Marvin Scott, I think he's shown a lot of ability yards after contact and running through tacklers, but it's hard to run through 2 or 3 of them. Running through one's a different story. And I think that's why you need that passing game to open up the running game. So it's really hard to judge the running backs, in my opinion, but need better offensive line play. Absolutely.
Yep. And I think, all signs point to Dedrick Mills being back this week. So that should help things out.
Bebo says, one coaching thing Nebraska needs is a Milt Tenopor or Charlie McBride who would trigger the intensity to dominate a team. I don't think we have that on this staff.
No, and I don't think any staff will ever have a guy like either one of those coaches. Those guys were special guys. But, yeah, I mean, from what I see and, my interactions with the coaching staff, I mean, these are all football guys. I don't think it's like a motivational thing, because if you can't get motivated to go out there and wear that N on your helmet, you shouldn't be here in the first place. I think if you're on the Nebraska football team, then about Nebraska history, about Nebraska tradition. So you shouldn't have to have somebody else having to pump you up to go out and perform in front of Husker Nation. I just think it's I don't know. It's hard to explain what exactly is going on.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I don't think you necessarily need that coach to pump you up. It's always nice to have that motivational coach that everybody loves. Like you look at Northwestern, you got the huge strength guy who's jumping around there and everybody takes pictures of him on the sideline. He's all over Twitter. But you don't necessarily need that. I mean, these are 18 to 21-year-olds. Me being a college athlete, I see it every day. You should be able to motivate yourself to go out there, especially with this big-time college football, rich tradition here at Nebraska. You've got to be able to pump up yourself, and especially for a game like Iowa. If you're not up for that game, you're just in the wrong place.
Yeah, and I don't know if anybody's ever watched Coach Duval in pregame and stuff. He's a pretty fiery guy right there. He's a pretty scary-looking guy.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
George doing some sales for us here. Even better than hitting the like button, join Mark's Patreon page. It's only $5 a month minimum. Makes a great Christmas gift. Making a commercial out of it, George. Thank you so much. All proceeds go to a good cause. So you get my insider look to our operation here, and you get my predictions. You get predictions, more importantly, from Steve Merrill from Pro Sports Info. He's a professional, but you do get my picks as well. You get the insider look. You get also our exclusive live streams that we do there per request, one per week per request, and also our watch parties there. George, thank you so much. Patreon, it's a good time, and it's 15 cents a day. All right, I just ran some numbers. This isn't going to surprise anybody, but off of these numbers comes the big question about development. So Nebraska recruiting classes that are currently on the roster, and I use the composite, which takes in Rivals, 247 Sports, and ESPN, I believe. Am I correct on that one, Greg?
Yeah.
The composite? Okay. Nebraska have ranked number 20, 17, 23, and 23. So right there around number 20 in the nation. Iowa, 36, 41, 39, and 41. Right around 40th in the nation. 20th and 40th. That's currently on the roster right now. And then I did the record write up, which I probably could have guessed within a game. Nebraska 22 and 27, Iowa 35 and 17.
Yeah, sounds right. Yeah, I mean,
Sounds like they should be flipped, though.
it does. I mean, obviously, you have one team in recruiting underachieving and one overachieving. And I know you've heard me say it before, Mark, that usually with my experience, with my 20 years in recruiting, pretty much where you're going to end up in that recruiting ranking is pretty much where your team is going to end up ranked at the end of the following season. It correlates pretty close to that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Nebraska obviously has not been living up to that, has not lived up to it in quite some time. So there is definitely a problem there that and it does this now. This spans this is 3 different coaching staffs that we're talking about as well, and they all recruit differently. And I think recruiting since Bo Pelini's days here, recruiting has been on an uptick. Mike Riley obviously recruited a different type of athlete, a higher ranked type of athlete, but kind of got away from some of the things that make a Nebraska team successful. And back to Bo Pelini as well. Bo Pelini, him and his staff had problems identifying talent in his own state. They, for some reason, Pelini and his staff kind of thought if you were an in-state guy, you should walk on, that you probably didn't deserve a scholarship. So you'd lose guys like a Drew Ott to an Iowa. So there's different philosophies involved here. And then when Scott Frost gets here, he's also recruiting, a different type of athlete than Coach Riley had been recruiting. But he knows what he needs to be successful here at Nebraska. And, like I said earlier today, you got to give him 4 or 5 years. And then I think that's when you can be critical. If Nebraska is still finishing outside of the top 25 every year and still getting recruiting classes inside the top 30 every year, then there's going to have to be some kind of a change. So give it some time. These guys that Scott Frost and his staff brings in here, they're not the same guys that Mike Riley was bringing in. So this process weeds everything out. You get in here and you find out right away if this culture is for you or not. And, they're not going to put up with guys here for a free ride anymore. You got to come here. You're going to have to participate. You're going to have to do everything else that's expected of everybody else. And, if you don't like it, then you hit the road. You know where the door is. And like I said, give it time. It's going to get better.
Yeah, I mean, and I totally agree with the give it time. I think today's era of college football is a little bit different than even 10 years ago. You saw Clemson kind of make a quick flip, not necessarily from bad to national championship, but they kind of flipped the script quick. And I'm not sure if you're going to see that today in college football. I think there's too many good teams out there, too much talent. I think it does take time, especially with where the program was at the end of the Riley tenure. So I think that he took over really nothing, and he's trying to build something of it. And you're getting a lot of fans being critical. And, I'll even come out and say I've been critical, but then I have to take a step back and I have to look and say, you got to give it time for this whole process to work out because he's getting the talent. Now we just need to see the improvement of that talent.
Yep, 100%.
Got JD Carmona asking, does Nebraska keep Patrick Payton? And just to set up Greg here, Patrick Payton's a top 10 outside linebacker in the nation. He's a top 20 player in the state of Florida. He's roughly a top 150 player if you look at the major services. So he's a talent.
He's a talent. What's the question?
Basically, does Nebraska keep him?
Do they keep him?
That's what JD's asking.
Oh,
does Nebraska keep Patrick Payton?
Oh, well, you hope that they do. I mean, anytime that you're a top-ranked prospect, people are going to be coming after you until you're signed on that dotted line. And these are young kids. You're talking about a 17 or 18-year-old kid that, he hasn't seen progress. He's expecting to see progress in this program right now, and you haven't seen that. So you can't fault him if they do lose him. But you know what? They're going to do everything that they can to convince him to stay. And it's a very strange recruiting year. We've never seen anything like this because he can't take official visits. So it's a little bit harder for guys to flip on their commitments right now. And especially if you're going to be a early enrollee guy, you don't have a lot of time left to be making a last minute switch. So, there's going to be a lot of factors involved in that. So, Nebraska has been successful this year in putting together a very good class without being able to host kids on campus. So, you have to kind of rely on that to keep a high caliber out-of-state kid that, maybe didn't grow up a Nebraska fan like a lot of other kids that are around that come from around this area are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that it's guys of that caliber like Peyton. I think the whole world of recruiting, college football world, is what I'm talking about. I think it's obviously way different right now. The recruiting dead period being extended, and you just have so much uncertainty that I think it's hard for anybody to really know what's going to happen in there.
I think Zach addressed this question to a certain extent a few minutes ago when he was talking about the coaches firing up the players, that the players are playing at a big-time program, playing in big-time games. They're getting a scholarship. They've obviously reached this level because they're, for the most part, very hard workers, and you would think that they would get themselves fired up for their own accomplishments, and for those players especially that have a shot at the NFL, and for the guy next to them. So Harlord is asking, do you guys think that Nebraska will be fired up after that tweet that Illinois thanked Nebraska for only bringing back Big Ten football? And again, hopefully that isn't what's necessary to fire up the team.
No, well, that's going to fire up the team, and I know it already has. Okay. A lot of people have talked about that all week. So, you don't like to be on the butt end of social media like that, and people hold a grudge, and you know what, Illinois and Nebraska play every year, so hopefully that motivates them going into next week or going into tomorrow, and remind them that Iowa's got their number, and it would probably make that bad taste of the Illinois game get out of their mouths pretty quickly if they could go into Iowa City tomorrow and win a game like that.
And that didn't come from some 19-year-old on the team. That came from the official Illinois football Twitter account.
Yeah. Do you think that guy that's in charge of that still has his job?
I think that they should be a little bit more professional than that myself, but hey, I think things are getting quite a bit looser in that respect. In other respects, they're not on social media, but that's another.
And if I could say one other thing about Patrick Payton, I can't stress enough, the times that we're living in right now, to ask a kid that's from the Miami area, to get up and move to Lincoln, Nebraska during a global pandemic, that's got to make things really tough on all of these kids. I don't care where you're going to go to school or where you're from. So, and Patrick Payton's got plenty of other options. He's got offers from Florida. He's got Florida State. He's got Georgia. He's got Miami. Mississippi State. He can go anywhere that he wants to close to home. Florida International, Central Florida. So, it'll be tough to keep a kid like that right now.
Mr. Raj 48 is asking, Will Farniok is a true center. Why move the true center if Juergens is hurt, and why train Juergens to be a center at all? Just recruit another true center.
Will, how do I put it? I mean, I like Will Farniok. He's a good player. He's a guy that I went and watched play in high school, as well as his brother Matt. They're both from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, watched in high school. And Will, he's a smaller guy. He's not as athletic. And Cam Juergens gives Nebraska a better chance to win as a center. I know he was a mega athlete coming out of high school, coming out of Beatrice, Nebraska here. He participated in the Rivals 5-Star Challenge. One of the highest rated players to come out of the state in a long time. And, he was a tight end. But his upside is at center. Coach Frost believes that. Coach Austin believes that. And they believe that he can play in the NFL as a center. So that's kind of the thinking along those lines. And, if quite frankly, if Will Farniok was ready to step in and be the starting center, he would be. But they think the best chance for them to win is to move Matt Farniok over from guard. Matt's a senior. He's a captain. And he's played a lot of football here at Nebraska. So, Will get his chance. It's a matter of time. But, they think their best chance to win right now is to, have Matt play center. And Matt's played well at center. It's really hard to ask him to move back and forth between guard and center. And, heck, he was a tackle last year. So, give credit to Matt Farniok for stepping up and doing whatever they ask of him.
Yeah, and I'm really intrigued to see if potentially, I know the staff's huge on Juergens as a center, if potentially you see a change to guard for him. I don't know if this is just what I think, but he almost seems too fired up for the snaps. Like, he's so fired up to go hit a guy that, like, he's snapping the ball off to the side. And maybe it's something where you get him to guard and you just let him eat. So I don't know exactly what you're going to see there. Maybe it's something you try out in practice. Maybe you try it in the game for a little bit, but it's interesting to see what will happen with Juergens and what will happen with the Farniok.
And I think that all plays itself out with reps as well. So, you're talking about a guy that's in the second year of his football career playing the position of center. So give him a break.
Absolutely.
And he's banged up. So
one of my favorite games of the year, Nebraska, Iowa. I always catch it. It's a 1:00 Eastern time game, noon Central on Fox. So the Hawkeyes at 3-2, Nebraska at 1-3. Want to remind everyone that this is our 5th edition of Nebraska Live. We come your way every Thursday night at 6:00 Eastern. That's 5:00 Lincoln time, Central time in Nebraska in the Midwest there. And also keep in mind that if you enjoy the show, then bring some friends along. Go out there on social media. Let people know that we are here every Thursday night. Again, 6:00 Eastern, 5:00 Central. And these shows are possible and will be in the future because the incentive in the past has just been basically that I was running a little side business and trying to build something up. But now it's the business. It's the job. It's everything. So we need funding for these shows. So if you want to keep the current shows going, Nebraska, Ohio State, Florida State, Miami, or you would like an additional show, your favorite team or somebody that you think would be interesting, certainly contact me about a sponsorship at MarkRogersTV at Gmail, MarkRogersTV at Gmail. Keep in mind that the show that you're watching, Nebraska Cornhuskers Live, brought to you by the fine folks in the Cornhusker fans at Phone Genie. Go to ToleyBrothersLLC.com. Tolley Brothers offers products for home and workspace for serious germ mitigation efforts, certainly a cause of concern for many people right now. So check them out, ToleyBrothersLLC.com. And again, I want to remind everyone that your individual contributions are key as well. The Super Chat is available to you if you appreciate the efforts, and folks like Greg coming on here every week and donating at least an hour of his time with his expertise. He's worked in the recruiting game now for 20 years, Greg.
Yep.
20 years. All right. So the Rivals brand doesn't have to be pumped up in any way. It is what it is. You know what it is. It's one of the industry standards. So Greg works there at Husker Online on Rivals. So we appreciate his insight, and he's there at the ball games. And Zach Reeder, who joined us this week to talk Nebraska football, we appreciate his time as well. Guys, thanks so much. Enjoy the game tomorrow. I actually think it's going to be a decent game. I see it's a 14-point spread, but based on, well, I guess the last 2 years, we can't go too much on that. But Iowa was a superior team, probably even more so the last 2 years in some regards. And, man, it went down to the last kick.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Nebraska's definitely showed a lot of heart in the last two games with the Hawkeyes. And, I've seen a lot of social media, a lot of comments on our YouTube channel, our message boards on the site. A lot of people picking the Hawkeyes by about 40 tomorrow. So, you never know. It's going to be a blowout or it's going to be a heck of a good game. I can tell you that much.
What do you think about this one, Zach?
I mean, the Huskers have to be able to establish drives offensively, have to be able to do more things other than a quarterback draw and quarterback run game. And if they're able to do that and play assignment football on defense, I don't see any reason why this game can't be close. But if you don't do that, it can get ugly quick with Iowa because they can continue to run it down your throats, and you'll feel like there's nothing you can do if you don't get after it right away and do your job.
I think what you really want to see is a clean game from Nebraska. You want to see no turnovers. You want to see very few penalties, very few mistakes. You want to see consistency in all three areas. And if they can do that, they've got a chance. And that's all you can ask for tomorrow.
And also that Luke McCaffrey shows a little bit of development. Can't ask too much off of one game that he's going to be a different quarterback suddenly in 1 week, but maybe that he's gained a little bit of confidence. Maybe that he's become a better passer in on a few different type of routes where they can stretch the field just a little bit more. All right, Nebraska and Iowa, I will be watching. These guys will be too. We'll be back here next Thursday night to talk the Iowa game and go forward from there here at Nebraska Cornhuskers Live. Greg, as always, we appreciate it. Join Greg on Husker Online on Rivals, and you got Zach Reeder from Fifth Quarter College Football. Guys, we appreciate it, and you're certainly welcome to contact me after tomorrow's game for a little instant analysis.
Yep, I'll be here.
We'll keep in touch. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Absolutely.
Same
Appreciate
here.
it. Thanks, Greg.
Yep, no problem. Yeah, I'll be here, so I'm not going anywhere. So
We'll be in touch.
Yeah. So if they lose, who knows if they'll even do a press conference? No, I'm sure they will. They're obligated for that. But
All right, Greg.
yeah, I'll be here. So I mean, whenever you're ready, I'll be ready. So
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you.
Yep. We'll see you later, Mark.
All right. We wrapped up our Nebraska Live show. I will stay here to take calls. I announced the other night that I will be here every Monday through Friday, every day during the week, every weeknight, Monday through Friday, even on Thanksgiving. Monday through Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time for a call-in show. But since we've got Nebraska Live going here, I might as well just stay on the line, and this can just segue right into our call-in show. So please call in if you would like to talk college football. In the meantime, I'm going to look at the games tomorrow. I have posted my predictions on Patreon, which is an accomplishment for me to do it, at 3 o'clock in the morning before the kickoff at noon. So I got them out there about 24 hours in advance with a number of important games tomorrow. Iowa State and Texas, to a certain extent, control the Big 12, meaning that the team that wins the Texas-Iowa State game tomorrow will control their destiny to get to the Big 12 championship game. Oklahoma is the other school. So it's clear-cut in regards to, you see that mess atop the Big 12 standings with all those two loss teams. But when it comes right down to it, the winner of tomorrow's Texas-Iowa State game has the inside track and controls its own destiny to get to the conference championship game, and Oklahoma controls the other spot. We also have an intriguing game, and the game that I would watch if I could only watch one game tomorrow, it would be Notre Dame and North Carolina. Iowa, Nebraska, as mentioned, 1 o'clock Eastern Time on Fox. We've got the battle that wages in Florida amongst the group of fives every Thanksgiving weekend. Central Florida taking on South Florida. The Civil War, I know that term has been banned. I don't see a big deal with it. I can continue to use it. I don't think anyone's going to find me. Civil War between Oregon State. I think everyone understands the context of the phrase. Oregon State, of course, is tomorrow night. The big game in the Pac-12, Cal and Stanford, another rivalry there. But Notre Dame, North Carolina, in terms of national implications, would be game number one. I will take on your live chat comments, and I will be around for a phone call. You see the number on the bottom of the screen, 860-325-3687. We've got a number of game cancellations, including Oklahoma and West Virginia. That one an issue on the Oklahoma side as the Sooners have halted football activities. So has USC. They canceled practice for 2 consecutive days as another player was tested, but not necessarily has that game, I'm sure it's being scrutinized very heavily, but has yet to be postponed. USC is taking on Colorado at the Coliseum in Los Angeles. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? Oh, here we go. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's George. How you doing?
George, what's going on? Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. Can you hear me okay?
I can. You're clear.
I'm waiting for my heater to turn off. I turned my heater off. It makes a loud noise. I can hear you.
Well, if you get cold, George, please turn your heater back on.
Oh, no, it's not like that at all. It's like 65 degrees outside, and I have the heater on, you know?
Yeah, it was a nice day here.
Yep. How's everybody going to know you're doing a live call-in show? How are we going to get the word out? I mean, maybe only 13 people know right now.
Something like that. So I just made that decision after kind of reviewing what's going on here. So I just made that decision, and we're going to be here Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, every night. Now, I do reserve the right to call it off once in a while if something comes up and I've got something to do. But 99% of the time, I'm going to be here Monday through Friday, at least through the football season. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, there you go, George. I'm right there with you. Let's get the word out.
Hey, Mark, you've known me a long time.
Yep.
And I interact a lot, right? I swear to God, this is true. I have never, ever known at any time what day you go on, what time. And it's the same for Pete, and it's the same for Uncle Lou, and it's the same for everybody. If my phone doesn't show me, you would never see me. You get it? I don't have a schedule on the wall for Pete and Lou and Mark. And if my phone doesn't give me that notification, I miss it, you know?
Well, for me in the past, because of my works.
I think most people are like that. If your phone doesn't notify you somebody's going live, how do you know? You know?
So, for example, today, you didn't get a notification that I was going live?
Yes, I did. That's why I jumped on. But if I don't get the notification, I'm usually the guy in the comment section that goes first, you know, like, because I had no idea. You know, it's like,
well, you're going to see a notification every day, sometime during the day, that's going to show that we're going live at 9 o'clock Eastern.
Right. You know, as we talk about things about how YouTube works and algorithms and stuff, I mean, you have it at your disposal to put your notice out that says going live in 6 hours and then turn that off and put going live in 2 hours so that now they've gotten 2 notices, you know?
Well, that I'm going to have to look.
There's certain ways you can try to boost your exposure so people know.
I don't know how to do that. I'll look it up.
That guy, Josh Pate. You know who Josh Pate is, right?
I do now. I didn't know who he was until somebody brought him to my attention.
He's pretty cool. He's a smooth operator. Everybody likes the way he talks and acts. You know, hey, look, you're all performers. You know, at some point, it just comes down to it. You're just playing. You're like Ed McMahon to Johnny Carson. You know, you're
well. I better not be.
Guy.
There was no Johnny Carson here, so I better not be Ed McMahon.
Listen, if you were teamed up with any of these other guys, you would be the straight guy.
Well, sure.
Everybody else is not. These people are crazy.
Well, I get
everybody's like having a good time. When Pete comes on your show, he plays the straight guy, but he don't do that when he's on his own show. He's a little bit crazier.
Sure. I need somebody to.
It's really nice. It's nice to see Pete acting normal on your show.
I need somebody to get the crazy out of me. It takes last night. We got our guy Jason Parker on here talking Florida State football, and when he says some knuckleheaded things, that riles me up.
Oh yeah.
That's what it takes. Takes for just.
Hey, my son went mushroom hunting on the coast of Oregon yesterday.
Okay.
And he found these rare mushrooms that are slightly hallucinogenic, but they're just like the mildest thing you could ever get, right? And he didn't eat any of them. He took them home and dried them out. But he said just from touching them and holding them in his hand, the rest of the day was just like la-di-da, just so beautiful. Isn't that amazing?
Sounds pretty amazing.
All right, so give me your address and the link, and I'll send you some, and you can just hold them in your hand, you know?
I think I'll not. I think I'll be refraining from sending my address out on social media.
You're right. Freaking Uncle Lou is arguing with some guy in the chat the other day. He puts his effing address in the gosh darn. I'm like, Lou, stop it, man. Are you crazy? Now he has to go put cameras at the end of the street and do all preventative measures. Oh man, Uncle Lou, stop it!
That's
all
it.
Right, big week.
All right, George.
Football coming up.
It is
big week of college football coming up. We didn't talk about football, but oh my gosh, what a weekend!
As long as somebody's going to play.
Yeah, I know. Don't even get me started. All right. Love you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, George.
Is there anybody on hold? Why isn't your number on the screen?
The number is on the screen.
All right. I'm not looking at the screen, so okay, I didn't know.
It is right there on the screen.
I notice you don't have it on the screen all the time, I notice, on other videos.
In terms of my phone number. You're talking about my phone number on the screen.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to let people know other things, like they can contribute on the Super Chat. I like to let them
All right,
know
no,
that
that's
I
good.
like to put the comments from the folks up there. We could stop doing all that.
No, don't do that. Don't trade.
So the number's been up there for like 10 minutes.
Both. I think you can do both things, but why clutter up the screen? You're right. You're right. And plus it gives us an opportunity to put it in the chat, which leads to more comments. And maybe there is a trigger in the look. Uncle Lou sometimes, because he's the one I notice this happening almost. And Pete gets it going too sometimes, and you've had it going, but not as much as they do. They get it going all the time, where the chat goes so fast you can't read it possibly. You know, it's just like a million miles an hour. That has to trigger something at YouTube.
Yeah, I really don't know.
Tell everybody just make random comments for no reason, as long as they're politically correct and all that.
Well, I am certainly content with and happy with our growth here, but it has to work out financially. So we have to turn it into a financial gain here. So
I don't understand why Uncle Lou has 30,000 followers and you only have 20 or something. Shouldn't he tell all his followers to go follow you and help you guys all get on equal footing? Even Pete, he had a head start. You know what I mean? Why doesn't everybody just do it for the heck of it? So you have 30,000 subscribers.
Well, first of all, so you're saying that Pigskin Pete was doing this before anybody else? Is that what you said?
No, but Lou was.
Okay.
You have like 20,000. Pete or Uncle Lou has 30 or 40,000, and Pete only has a few thousand, as far as I know. I think he's way behind.
Okay. Well,
but if everybody from Uncle Lou's channel would just go over and join your channel and join Pete's channel.
I don't need charity followers, though. I'm not looking for people just to join. I want them to enjoy what they're doing here, and not necessarily everybody at Uncle Lou's channel is going to like what I do, or vice versa. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
It makes no difference to me. I just want people to be here. Yes. I don't need people to try to push
Mark, I can't hardly watch Uncle Lou anymore. He changed lately. It's just getting hard for me to watch his channel.
Okay.
He changed.
I'll not necessarily dive into that.
You might want to warn him. You might want to warn him next time you talk to him. He needs to go watch one of his videos from 3 years ago and sort of check his freaking behavior. He's getting a little cray-cray.
Okay.
But I like the guy. I think he's humble. That's why I'm giving him this piece of advice. Go back to being the humble guy you started out as.
Well, you may want to talk to him directly and not talk through me. Let's do that.
Nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm just being friendly. I'm not trying to hurt no one's feelings or nothing. But he'll know what I mean instantly. Calling people out, saying, coming over to my house.
All right, George. Again, go to his channel. Talk to him about that. We're not talking about that here. So,
all right.
Thanks, George.
Thanksgiving.
Appreciate it.
Love you.
Bye. So I would guess that most of you are familiar with Pigskin Pete and with Uncle Lou. So we collaborate with them on a regular basis. I'm good with both of them. They do a tremendous job, but I'm not going to sit here and talk about other people except to say, go check out their YouTube channels if you aren't aware of them, because I would recommend both of them. Absolutely. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Dominic.
Dominic, what's going on?
Nothing much, really. I just wanted to just call you and chat with you about some stuff during the live stream.
Absolutely.
What'd you do this Thanksgiving day?
What did I do? Wasn't a very eventful Thanksgiving for me. My kids are out of town.
Oh.
Talked to a lot of people on the phone.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, yeah, I just had some of that delicious turkey
Good.
with my family.
Awesome. Glad you had a good time. Excellent. What else is going on?
Well, let me see. Now I know the title on the stream says Iowa Week. So you don't mind if I talk about Iowa since it says Iowa Week on the title, right?
Well, we have segued into our call-in show, so I'm taking calls about anything in college football. Doesn't have to be about Iowa.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But anyway, gosh, I do not even know where to start, but
Okay, well, you can always call back tomorrow.
Oh, sorry if I just got confused on what I wanted to talk about. Sorry, Mark.
That's okay. What you got?
Well, North Carolina, they are number 19. I mean, they're facing Notre Dame tomorrow, so I mean, are you doing a voice calling tomorrow? Because I'm not sure.
Okay, Dominic. You have a great night. Get back with the family. Enjoy some more food. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Talk to you soon. Have a good night.
All right. All right, let's get into the live chat. Why don't we do that? Oh, we got a call coming in. Can the calls get any better? Is it possible? Whoa. All right. Maybe not. Okay. Where are we in the live chat? So Richard's got a question about the Iowa and Nebraska game. I just left my prediction. I'm glad that you set me up well, Richard, with that. Mark, do you think that Iowa will blow out Nebraska? All my predictions you can find on Patreon. It's only like 15 cents a day. And that is not necessarily the reason that you join us on Patreon at our Voice of College Football community, but that is one component of it, one benefit. You get my predictions there. I see that Iowa is a 14-point favorite. So my prediction's already posted. Roy, we appreciate the call there as a true professional. There's Dominic with their Washington Wizards logo avatar. Very impressive. All right. It's not necessarily a lively bunch tonight, do we have? Usually we can't get through all the phone calls. Usually they're backed up. But with only 37 on the line, I get it. It's Thanksgiving night. And if my family was in town, I probably would not be sitting here. So I certainly can appreciate that. All right, everyone. It's great to see you. We will be back tomorrow throughout the day on Friday. We've got college football starting at noon Eastern time with Texas, Iowa State. We've got a lot of other big games, and I can see somebody's not going to let me go, which is fine. That's why I'm here.
The call will start at the beep.
Hey, it's MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Mark, this is Navy Thomas 8, buddy.
Hey, Tom. Happy Thanksgiving.
I got the big thing I was trying to explain in the chat group.
Yeah?
Nebraska tried to join the Big Ten back in 1925.
I saw that.
That was 95 years ago. They were denied, and they ended up forming the Big Three division.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the Big Ten, it was the Big West back then. So I put the post up on the hand chat group if anybody wants to go read it. But 1925 is 95 years ago, and we took it in 2015, I think. So maybe 90 years later, Nebraska got into the Big Ten.
Well, that's red tape for you.
Not a big deal. It's just there was some discussion a little bit about it, so I brought that up. And then even George was like, "You're kidding me," and I'm like, "No, really." So that's all it was. I just wanted to share that for everybody else to check into. The only place I could find it was on Husker Max, and I put the link to it, so you can go to it and read it. But I can't figure out who actually wrote it from whatever online it was back then. So,
Tom,
all right, buddy, I'll talk to you later.
I'm looking at, and I will read this off when I let you go. I am looking at the 1925 Nebraska Cornhuskers football team and the Missouri Valley football standings. Do you want to know who was in conference play with Nebraska in 1925?
Right, which is how the Big Three started with the Missouri Valley Conference.
So there's going to be a lot of familiar names here. There's going to be a lot of familiar names. Missouri.
Changed all the way up to the Big Eight.
Missouri, Kansas State, Iowa State, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Kansas. But you also had Drake, Grinnell, Washington University, and Oklahoma A&M, which I believe later became Oklahoma State. I would have to look that up.
That's away from the Missouri Valley. But now you've got Creighton University, which was in there in basketball. Now they're in the Big East. I don't know if there's a Missouri Valley Conference anymore left for basketball, but I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out there for you to check it out and give some explanation. So, all right, talk to you later.
Good stuff, Tom. Have a good night.
All right, buddy. Bye.
All right. I think my night's complete when I get a call from Navy Thomas. Navy Thomas, I believe, is the oldest active subscriber. Maybe I'll do this tonight with nothing to do, like I've got nothing to do, yeah. That I'm going to go to my subscriber base of, what did George say, 20,000? George, we're at 22,463. I'm looking at it right now, 22,463. Add up all the other Mark Rogers TV, the Voice of College Football channels, and we're up to about 42,000, something in that range. So anyway, and there's a way to look up which subscribers joined when. So I should go back and honor those people that joined first that are still with us. Navy Thomas would be the guy, though, that has been with us the longest, that participates in the conversations. Gotta be. I'll check that out at some point. We'll give that a look. That could be an interesting little project for me tonight, since I have finished my predictions for the weekend. And we need to do better than last week's 7-8 against the spread. I don't like that we've got all these cancellations. That also limits the games that I can watch. It limits the games that I can predict. Which would be, who are we missing this weekend? 2 games down in the Pac-12, correct? Or no, just the one game down in the Pac-12 that almost opened up a spot for Washington to play BYU, but now Washington's going to play Utah. So I do like that the Pac-12 has been nimble. Really, unlike all the other conferences, nobody else is making up games. Well, the SEC is making up. They're moving some pieces to make up games. The Big Ten's not done that. They've not made up games. These Wisconsin losses are mounting right now. Wisconsin probably will not be eligible to win the Big Ten Western Division, which, if Northwestern takes care of business, of course, with a head-to-head win, then it's not going to matter. But Wisconsin would be the most likely team. Northwestern could lose 2 more games. They could. They probably won't. But who are we missing this weekend? We were supposed to see Colorado State and Air Force tonight. That's a nice little game. Air Force and Colorado State. I haven't seen either one of those teams play for a while. And tomorrow canceled Southern Miss and UAB, and also San Diego State and Fresno State. And then on Saturday, we're missing another 5 games. Cincinnati Temple, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Minnesota, Wisconsin, unfortunately. Hate to see that one go by the wayside. Tulsa, Houston, Louisiana Tech, Florida International. So we've got 4 ranked teams on Saturday not playing. Games canceled, 4 ranked teams. And of course, Cincinnati's a team that is desperately trying to make a statement for the playoffs, and another blowout win for Cincinnati, even though Temple is not very good this year, would have added to the resume. George is saying that Cincinnati would do better in the playoffs than Oklahoma ever did. At least they would make it a game. I would be fascinated to watch Cincinnati make the playoffs. And if Cincinnati goes undefeated, and let's say Ohio State does what we would expect, they sweep, go undefeated, get in there. Alabama sweeps Florida, they go undefeated. Clemson, let's say Notre Dame. Let's make it easy and say Notre Dame sweeps Clemson, so they knock out Clemson, and we've got 3 undefeated Power 5 champions. We've got 2 losses minimum out of the Big 12 champion gone. And let's say the Pac-12 champion is not impressive. They lose a game, they're 6-1. Maybe they even lose a game on the schedule because of COVID, and they go 5-1. So you've got Cincinnati at 11-0. Hopefully, if they can make up this game against Temple, which I'd have to look at the calendar, Cincinnati goes 11-0. You almost have to put them in the playoff, right? The only other candidate at that point would be Texas A&M with 1 loss. That would be the only reasonable team to put into the playoff under that scenario. Over Cincinnati would be a 9-1 Texas A&M team. But let's say Cincinnati gets in there. I would be fascinated. I want to see a group of 5 team compete. I want to see this. I don't think we will, but it's got a better chance of happening this year than even the UCF year. UCF never had a legitimate chance of getting in. Cincinnati does. They have avenues to get there. Roy Boy, yes, Luke Fickell in 2011 was the coach the last time Michigan beat Ohio State. That was 40-34 with Denard Robinson at quarterback from Michigan. And you had Braxton Miller as a freshman for Ohio State. The Ohio State team post Jim Tressel, pre-Urban Meyer, finished 6-7. That Michigan team finished 11-2 and won the Sugar Bowl. All right, everyone. It was great to see you tonight. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it with family and friends and had a great time. And we will see everyone back here multiple times tomorrow as we will provide instant analysis of all the big games, especially Notre Dame, North Carolina, Nebraska, Iowa, Texas, Iowa State, and others. So instant analysis, look out for that. And also our call-in show tomorrow night, Friday night. George, listen up. Friday night, get the bell, turn it on for the notifications. Friday night, 9 o'clock Eastern time, right here for the big call-in show following all the big games. And that will be in the midst of Oregon State. Right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Everyone have a great night, and we will see you soon.